Endgame from 1983 is one of the more obscure, one of the lesser known examples of Italian post-apocalyptic cinema. Now, this was a genre that included more high-profile examples like After the Fall of New York and The New Gladiators and The New Barbarians, but Endgame certainly was one of the more obscure entries. So this one came along in 1983. It was directed by Joe D'Amato. And the first thing that I'll say about Endgame is that it was ripped off fairly extensively by the Running Man movie, especially, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. The parallels are difficult to ignore. So this one basically starts AB after the bomb, but in this instance the nuclear holocaust hasn't been quite as devastating as it was in, say, The New Barbarians, for example, or After the Fall of New York. I like to think that all these movies take place in the same universe. They really do feel somewhat tied together. So the number one rated program after the bomb in post-apocalyptic America, post-apocalyptic Europe, it's never really established entirely in this movie where it's all taking place, is called Endgame. And essentially it's the same as The Running Man that had come along later. So you've got all these hunters that hunt each other down. The only difference is that none of them are recruited prisoners like they are in The Running Man. They're all volunteers. You've got Ron Shannon, played by Al Cliver. He's kind of like this quasi-Indiana Jones, post-apocalyptic Indiana Jones type character with a whip and a six-shooter, wearing a lot of leather. So he's a bit of a hybrid of Mad Max, Rockatansky, of course, and Indiana Jones, with a little bit of the Man with No Name thrown in for good measure, although that's more to do with Al Cliver's always understated performances than any conscious effort to be like Clint Eastwood, I think. Nevertheless, the resemblances are there. There's also Kurt Karnak, who's played by the great George Eastman. So Kurt Karnak's in there as well. There's a Bill Wyman lookalike, a guy with weird silver face paint that looks like Bill Wyman, the bass player from the Rolling Stones. And there's a guy played by Woody Strode, I think it is. He's another one of our Endgame participants. And the whole thing's sponsored by an energy drink, of course, called Life Plus. I guess if you think of Logan Paul's Prime energy drink, only after the bomb and more effective, you really get Life Plus, which is endorsed by all of the Endgame participants and of course by the producers and the presenter of Endgame, who looks a bit like Jerry Seinfeld. So that is Endgame. It starts with all these guys hunting each other. They don't necessarily hunt each other to the death in this weird Forbidden Zone Endgame obstacle course, I guess you'd call it. Sometimes they survive, and in this episode, Al Cliver, aka Ron Shannon, does spare the life of Kurt Karnak, played by George Eastman. Now, in the middle of all this, Al Cliver's propositioned, I guess you'd say, by a mutant telepath played by Laura Gemser, who was the wife of the director of this movie, Joe D'Amato. And she's probably best remembered for the Emmanuelle movies, like Emmanuelle Around the World and Emmanuelle in America. And she's part of this discriminated against class of mutants, mutant telepaths, that the bad guys in the movie, who look suspiciously like Nazis, as do the bad guys in 2020 Texas Gladiators. So they're trying to exterminate the mutants, and Laura Gemser telepathically helps Al Cliver beat Kurt Karnak, aka George Eastman, in Endgame, and he spares George Eastman's life, and in return he thanks Laura Gemza by offering to help her and the surviving mutants to safety throughout the wasteland. So the plot's a little bit convoluted, but mostly simple. That's about it. It's our Mad Max slash Man with No Name slash Indiana Jones stand-in, Al Cliver, helping out Laura Gemza and a scientist and a bunch of mutant telepath refugees who aren't exactly the X-Men, but along similar lines. Only the movie's more entertaining than any of the X-Men movies. So that in a nutshell is Endgame. Very cool movie with a lot of very cool action sequences, a lot of atmosphere, a lot of cool set pieces. Probably my favourite is one involving a cult or a commune of blind monks who are using a telepath. And it's one of the more original action scenes that you'll see in one of these Italian post-apocalyptic movies. Al Cliver's understated as always, as I said, as Ron Shannon. George Eastman, as always, steals the show as Kurt Karnak. There's also a huge guy that helps them out. They recruit a bunch of mercenaries to help them smuggle these mutants. One of them looks like Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys on steroids. So that's pretty funny. There's also Al Yamanuchi turns up, who was in, he was the Rat King, not to be confused with the Rat King Theo Von, but he was the Rat King in After the Fall of New York, and he was in the new Gladiators as well, which is a movie that a lot of people do confuse for Endgame. And if you've seen both of them, you will understand why. It's similar sort of premise, similar cast, and you can totally understand why people would get the two confused. So, cool little movie. It's not too heavy on plot like a lot of these Italian post-nukes. It's heavily influenced by Mad Max, of course, but ironically, it did heavily influence The Running Man, both the novel by Richard Bachman, I guess, and the movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the whole first act especially is a lot like The Running Man, and then it sort of degenerates into more of a Warriors of the Wasteland Mad Max style movie. There's a bit of telekinesis on offer just to keep things interesting, and some very cool fight scenes. It's ultra violent at times, ultra shocking at times, quite dark. One of the more nihilistic post-apocalyptic movies, along with 2020 Texas Gladiators, which is also one of the more nihilistic ones. And I don't think it's any accident that Joe D'Amato directed both of these and George Eastman wrote both of these. So you do get quite a enlightening look into the hearts of darkness that are Joe D'Amato and George Eastman, aka Luigi Montefiore. I've seen a few interviews with George Eastman about this one and about 2020 Texas Gladiators, and he has that wonderful humility that a lot of these Italian filmmakers do have. Usually they dismiss all these movies as goat shit, and I believe George's sentiments are no different towards Endgame. And personally, I think that's kind of cool that these guys aren't sort of hung up on their own hype, delusionally obsessed with their own talent. They really are more craftsmen of cinema, these Italian filmmakers, and they really see things in perspective and feel fortunate to have been able to make a lot of these movies. So Endgame comes highly recommended from me. I'll try and find a link to the full movie if you're interested in playing YouTube whack-a-mole, if someone's put it up on YouTube. Otherwise, you can find this one on physical media, I believe. But as always, you probably want to get in quick because physical media seems to be a dying breed. And I can kind of see these Italian post-nukes becoming lost to history over the years to come. So you probably want to try and pick up a copy of these, as with any movie that you think you may revisit in 10, 20 years. So certainly one of Joe D'Amato's better movies. I prefer this one to pretty much everything else that he's ever done, with the possible exception of 2020 Texas Gladiators, but I think Endgame just about edges it out. So just a quick video on 1983's Endgame from Joe D'Amato, starring Al Cliver, George Eastman, Al Yamanuchi, and that's really all that I have on Endgame that's coming to mind, but definitely check it out, especially if you are a fan of Italian post-apocalyptic cinema. So I hope you've enjoyed this video today. Really, I can't recommend these Italian post-nukes highly enough, so they're all worth checking out. And if you did enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe. Do a brother a favour. And I look forward to seeing you next time. I'm off to enjoy my long weekend, and I hope you take it very easy.